Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we're tearing down a Chrysler 318. You can see there's a lot of sludge up in here. This engine has definitely been run hard and abused. This was in a 64 Dodge A100 van, and what I was told when I picked up the engine, I got this engine for free, was that they siliconed everything up, which is correct, and when it dried, something fell down the pan and got into the oil pump, so it got run dry oil. If you roll it over, you can definitely hear the bearings clunking. I don't know if I'll be able to get it by hand. No, need the wrench. Rod bearings are probably gone. Chances are the heads are going to be kept. The rest is going to the scrap yard. But it'll be fun to tear it down. You can hear the clunk. Not a good sound. Anyways, let's get the valve covers off, get the intake off it, and then we'll take another look. This side was unopened when I got it, and it's just as bad. There's a lot of sludge in here. That's not how an engine can look, folks. This is my 318, which is rebuilt. That's how you want your engine to look, nice and clean. So we got the intake and the other valve cover off the 318. We can see this engine is not in good shape. You see all the soot and that in there. The buildup. That's all sludge. There's a lot of sludge in there. And you can see if you look close. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. See if I can get it to focus. Focus down there, come on. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a lot of sludge buildup in this engine. A lot of sludge buildup. Not just that, there's also a good bit of metal filing among all the sludge and the grease. Not a good sign, people. We can tell that this is an earlier 318 because if you look at the bosses for the lifters, the later 318s like mine, which is out of a 1987 Dodge truck and is all rebuilt, the later 318s have holes drilled here, 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 and they also have different valve bosses to fit a roller cam setup in them. This engine, though, the cam might as well never roll again. The lifters aren't stuck in it, which is good. They'll be easy to pull out. Nothing is to be expected to be salvageable here. It's bad, folks. It's bad. So before I take the heads off, I just want to show you guys a very common problem with these Chrysler 318 engines. This is an exhaust crossover port. It basically picks up exhaust, and there will be a manifold like this, factory, with a heat riser on it. And what that heat riser does is it will block off flow and basically warm up the plenum of the intake for better cold starts and better winter drivability. It goes in the intake right here. A big problem with these 318s is that this will plug up and the matching port in the intake will plug up, and then the engine won't run right because there's not tuned up to be run without the exhaust crossover. Also, these originally, the choke and the exhaust crossover, there's a choke that usually bolts right on here, and the exhaust crossover are run on a bimetallic spring. So, those can also seize up and fuck up how your engine's run. So, the heads are off it now. As you can see, it is in pretty bad shape. There's a lot of not great stuff in here. Cylinders aren't clean. There's a good bit of ring ridge on them. You can feel it. Might even be able to hear it there. Also, if you look closely, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but there is no cross hatching left on the cylinders at all. They look like a chrome bumper, no scratches, no factory bore scratches on there at all. The valley is still full of gunk. I'm not even going to bother taking the lifters out or taking the cam out. It's that bad. It's not worth taking out. The head gaskets were pretty toasted. The heads are in pretty good shape. They're open chamber heads. Pretty decent. Nothing too major in there from what I can see. Haven't really looked too hard yet. But they should be salvageable. Main reason I kept the motor. I got it for free, so yeah. It's a pretty messy job. Like I said, no cross hatching on the cylinders left at all. Not good. Pretty carboned up too. It's probably in the van, drove like a little old lady. So just rolling it over, it does not sound good. You can especially hear what sounds like cylinders number 1 and 2 flopping real hard. Listen as this comes back down off compression. She's bad. So the heads are off, and the motor's upside down, the oil pan's off. And typically, these are your connecting rods. All these. They turn on the crankshaft. The oil pump would usually be here, but the oil pump's missing. They must have taken it off. The oil pan's only on with a few bolts. Your connecting rods are supposed to be somewhat like this, probably tighter because these are gone. A couple of these let go. And inside the oil pan looks kind of like the chippings from a lathe. There is not much left. That is all metal down there. And it's all bearing material. Like, it's not a good scene. So I'm going to pull the rod caps off, even though the rest of this engine is going to junk. Surprisingly, it had a like new double roller timing chain on it, which is over there being kept along with the timing cover and heads and the balancer. So I'm going to pull these couple connecting rod caps off and see how it looks. So I took the piston and the connecting rod out of it, and this is the other rod still in there. It's bad, like really, really bad. You can see there's almost a knife edge on the crank. But I would show you the bearings on the connecting rod, but there's no bearings left. There's the little nub to it right there, and the connecting rod is so scored, and there's the cap is so scored, and there's the rod itself. Not a bearing left on it. The piston itself doesn't look the worst. I mean, oh, there goes the cap. Oh no, my great engine. There goes, the piston's not the worst. There's a little bit of scoring in that on it, but it's not too bad. The rings aren't overly gone. They're not the worst. But man, that connecting rod, holy Jesus. There is nothing left. Well, folks, that pretty well wraps up this teardown. I decided to pull one of the lifters out just for fun. Ended up having to use screwdrivers and a hammer. And it was actually the second lifter I tried to pull out. That one wouldn't even come out. The results of which were not pretty. Focus on that, would you? Not a pretty result. So that, folks, is why never ever go the cheap route when you're trying to reseal an engine. You're just going to end up something like this. This had silicone sucked up the oil pump. It had no oil flow. You can see how sludged it up it is because they also ran dirty oil. And if you do this, you're going to end up with something like this. An oil pan so full of bearing material that you pretty well got to vacuum it out to get any of it out. Anyways, if you watched this far through, which I doubt anybody did, but if you did anyways, thank you very much, and have a great day.